Hey there, baseball fans. Welcome to another edition of the Prep Baseball North Carolina podcast. I'm Brandon Hall, joined this week with our Eastern North Carolina scout, Zach Borowski. Zach, how we doing, buddy?
Everything's going good. We got heat in the building now. I was telling you about that earlier. My batting cage has finally got some heat, so it's been a good day.
That is a good day.
I kind of enjoy that. It's warm in here now.
Well, we're both a little punch drunk. It was a big weekend. We saw a lot of talent. We had close to 80 players on Saturday in Kernersville at Diamond Extreme, and then followed up. That was a late night. We got out of the building, 10:30 is 11 o'clock for me. Turn around back in the building. I was in the building about 7:15 getting ready for our pro case. We're going to touch on the pro case in the Super 60 a little later this week, hopefully. Start with the Preseason All-State Central, 80 players, Diamond Extreme. Always a great place to be. Paul Brandon and his guys, that facility, great place for these guys to work out. Your thoughts as we roll back in there, I think for our fourth or fifth year being in the facility.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. It's an open space. There's a lot of room. The kids can get loose. There's enough room for hitting, so everybody gets warm. Everybody, we call it the box, and everybody kind of knows what it is, and it's nice. Paul's been a phenomenal dude. Kind of got to know him, scouting his son. It's a wonderful facility, and that area's got a great place to train, and we got a good place to use when we need to do events there.
It's a place that gives us a chance to be around a lot of guys because they do have that open box. We get a chance to actually run them. We get a chance to see the ball fly off the bat. We get a chance to simulate an infield. We can go full speed pops. And so, anytime we're doing things like that and we're able to flow guys into one area, we're kind of sitting in one area and doing our stuff. I feel like I get a chance to watch, especially if the tech stuff goes the way it's supposed to. And for the most part, Saturday ran without any hiccups. So I know I actually have player notes. It's 2 events in a row, and so I'm feeling good about starting to dive in. But going back to the East and going back to the West, we're getting into stats, we're getting into video. That stuff's starting to populate on profiles, and I'm still learning about players, even though we're a week removed. And kind of what were your feels trying to work back through some of what we saw last week? Knowing we're going to be able to do that again with this group.
Yeah, I thought, obviously for the pitchers, I got a chance to watch and kind of dive into some videos a lot quicker. You and I have talked about it. I like watching hitters from the machine. So for me, I don't get to take quite as many notes the way that you and Patrick kind of do because you guys are sitting. I like watching it that way, and then I go back and watch, and it kind of helps me. Just because I know where the ball is, I get to watch the swing from a different angle. So that's kind of where I like to be. So when guys see me, they're always like, you might not be taking notes. I'm like, I'm watching, and I get to see the game kind of from a different view as the BP guy.
Well, let's go ahead and start jumping in a little bit into this Preseason All-State Central. We're not going to get to everybody. There's way too many good players in this event to kind of dive into every single guy we saw here. There's some guys we've already started really kind of looking at, and we're going to start with a committed player. As we start on Logan D'Amico, I hope I'm saying that right, Marvin Ridge High School, a player that was at this event last year, a player that, in all honesty, and there were a couple players that fit this category, probably would have been at the pro case had it been last year, the year before that. He's a good enough talent. His grades are high enough in our deal to kind of qualify for that. But the 2025 class is so good and so deep that, obviously we're going to push to get more 25s in front of the pro scouts there on that Sunday event. And Logan felt like it was going to be a good chance for him to continue to kind of, show what he's done. And he's gotten better. I was kind of impressed with where he's at and what he's done. And kind of let you expand on what you saw as I pull up some video here on him.
Yeah, in the box, he's physical. It's plus bat speed. He's got some good strength to him. Exit velo in the upper 90s. I think we were up to 99.7, so we're close to that 190 club that I like to always use. I really like him in the box. I think that he's got a real chance to hit. And then when you get on the mound, I think he's starting to transition from thrower to pitcher. And here, that was my mound. So fastball changeup in the combo, both are kind of running pitches, and then 2 distinctly different breaking balls with plus spin. And I really think that he is learning to be a pitcher. And it's a funky slot. It's got some run, and the windows are pretty good together. So I think he's going to have a legit chance to 2A, especially with the roster numbers coming up.
when you take athletic guys that can go in a lower slot and throw strikes and manipulate the baseball a little bit, that's an interesting guy to me because this isn't a slot a lot of younger hitters see. We got so many guys in that high 3/4, over to the top slot. He's athletic. He really drives his line for a lower slot. He stays linear for a long time. I think he is probably a hitter first right now. And I think that's still, compared to where he has a chance to be, it's still a little raw right now, which is, it sounds weird to say, but that's an exciting thing because he's not to his ceiling yet. He's not to a point where you go, he's got a ton of polish to him. So as he gets older and more mature, he's going to continue to kind of learn what's going on. I think that's an exciting part to his game, and trying to figure out how he's going to land. It's a Wake Forest commit. And he kind of fits at the data darlings and things of that sort. He is an outlier in a lot of different areas in terms of things he can do that other people can't. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they develop him.
Yeah, no, he's the way that college baseball is. Athletes are going to start taking priority over skill guys, and he is a plus athlete right away.
Well, one of the interesting things that we had as we were moving through the event is we saw several guys that had been at our Future Games. And for those that are not familiar, the Future Games is our biggest event of the year. It's a national event. It's held at Lake Point. It features the top uncommitted rising juniors in the country the week prior to college coaches being able to contact those guys. We had a couple of alumni at the event. We had several guys that kind of put their names on a list. Hey, they got a chance to be there next year. And we'll start diving into some of these guys. Let's start with somebody you're fairly familiar with. Right-handed pitcher was with us in Lake Point with Team Carolina 2 years ago. Gabe Murray, right-handed pitcher, now at Middle Creek High School, if that's right. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Nah. We left Coach Zach's alma mater and is now at Middle Creek with his brother. So he's getting to play with his brother, so I can't argue that. I think he looks better in orange and black, but I truly understand going to play with your brother your last year.
It's a unique skill set. He's really calmed his delivery down. We saw him Future Games a couple years ago. One of the things we really liked is the way he moved. And he's an advanced runner. So if you see him run a 60, you go, ooh, that's a skill set that stands out. Then you watch him on the mound. It's pretty easy. The hips have looseness. He's down the mound. He's creating good drive out of the backside. The arm's got some quickness. Slot was a little bit lower. I know he went through some things last year because and if I'm wrong on this, tell me, because obviously you know him better than I do. But I think he was just then kind of getting into the point of kind of becoming a pitcher more than a hitter. And as he was building pitch counts and doing that stuff, I think the body reacted and said, hey, let's slow down, let's take a break. Now he's taking that break. And what was the ideal time to take it? A lot of people will say, no, well, that's a big summer. But I think for him, it allowed the body to really kind of calm down over the mound and generate a lot of explosiveness through the pitch instead of kind of around the pitch. Still spins the ball. It's a sink slide type profile that I think has a chance to give hitters a fit. Does he develop a pitch that swings and it gets swing and miss when he wants to? I think it's in there because I still think he's just a baby on the mound in terms of what his lifespan is. He's still just scratching the surface of where he has a chance to be.
Yeah, no, he had a bone spur issue, so that was kind of one of the things. And then he revamped his training program, and it's been really good. We actually talked about it today that the breaking ball speed's finally moving up. So we're starting to make that, the chance to be the swing and miss pitch. I think his spin is right around 2,400. I know we're trying to get to 26 and, maybe close to 80. He had the best changeup I'd ever seen then. The arm speed was there. It's in the video. It's starting to become – it used to be a distant third pitch, and we were just throwing warm-ups just to say, hey, I have a changeup. But now I really think we got a chance to get swing and miss. I do think the lower slot, the fastball's riding a little bit more. I think it had the little – before we had a little cut to it, so the spin rate was increased just because it was cutting and it was kind of taking some of the fake spin. And this is kind of like the legit 2,400. It's kind of riding and it's kind of getting on hitters. I think he's going to have a chance to get some swing and miss up in the zone a lot. He's a really good uncommitted 2025. I know he's had some offers. We've talked about a bunch of them. We're still trying to find the right fit for him. When you're 25 and the recruiting world changes, what we used to know is now different.
Right. Right, and he's going to be a kind of a test subject for that in terms of how does he land, because the grade we have on him, the way that grade played out 2 years ago, 5 years ago, completely different than what we're seeing now. And we are seeing guys with higher grades take some alternative paths, and some of them are still ending up kind of where the grade kind of projects them to be over the course of their span in college, but it's just a different world. And I think he's gotten caught up in that a little bit, and I think he's going to make somebody really, really happy when he does commit to him, because you're going to get a guy that not only is he good now, but I think he has a chance to be better by the time he gets on campus, and a chance to be even better by the time the spring of next year rolls around. So he's made leaps and bounds in the last 2 years. I'm excited to kind of follow where he goes, and that brings us to another player that similar boat. I think this young man went with us to Lake Point. He was a guy that has pitchability. I think he learned to pitch early on. I think the stuff has kind of evolved over time. I think it's spin over fastball right now. But Grayson Jones, right-handed pitcher from West Forsyth High School, was part of Team North Carolina last year, future games. What do you got on?
Yeah, he's a strike thrower, and there's just not a lot that can go wrong with that delivery. It is so clean. He's so in control of it. I think he's physicaled out since the last time I saw him a lot better, and it's some good weight. He does open up the front half a little early, which sometimes can give a window on the fastball changeup, but it also helps him have tremendous spin. So with that, 2 different breaking balls, curveball, slider. Said he likes the slider a little bit more. I can see it. They're very good pitches, and the changeup's arm speed is there. There's a lot to like. Right now, this is the high floor guy. He's going to be a 4-pitch mix. He's going to throw a ton of strikes. He's going to get a ton of outs. I'm curious to see if it's that 87 to 90 guy, or if we can take that next jump to that 90-92 guy.
Right.
And that stuff at 90-92 with the command he has is going to be electric. If he's the 88 to 90 guy, he's just going to be the guy that gets outs, and at the end of the game, you're down 4-1 and wonder how he got through, 6 innings and we didn't put a ball in play, and he just shoves and carves.
I think he'll be a unique watch from a standpoint of how does player development seem at the college level. If you get him with the right program, the player development is kind of here's where he is and here's where he has a chance to be. I think the path is there. It's a solid mover. There's he's got some thickness in his lower half, some physicality down there. I'd like to see a little bit better explosion, but again, he's still so young that could come. Thing he does is when he shows up on campus, you can say, hey, worst case scenario, the floor is really high. Worst case scenario, we're going to put him in the bullpen. We're going to spin it for 2 to 3 to 4 hitters. We're going to get him out and do it again in 2 days. But the ceiling's got a chance to still be high because he does have changeup, he does have fastball, has a chance to do something. I think he'll have to augment the fastball a little bit, to either get it to ride or to just deaden the spin completely. It's hard to say what they're going to do with him right now, because I think where he's going to be in 18 months in terms of moving is going to be completely different than what he is now. So he'll be an interesting follow. And again, a guy that was at Lake Point with us and threw really well for Team North Carolina there. So.
Yeah, no, he's a fun guy to watch, and he's a guy you got to see. He might be a guy you got to see 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Scouting world, electric stuff always jumps out. And then you go watch this guy, and you're like, well, this guy just beat the guy with the electric stuff 4 times because he got outs for, every time you see him. Like, he brings it to the table. And I think that's the next progression for him, is to prove he can go get outs consistently.
It's always a unique deal. Trying in that player development system is you get guys that can pitch early. And he looks like, and again, I don't know the complete background, but he looks like a young man that had kind of gone through the process and getting outs when they first start pitching, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever. Probably still one of the better players coming up, but he had a chance to get outs, learn how to manipulate pitches and get outs. And now you moving forward and stuff starts to jump, and those guys, they quickly evolve into how to use their stuff versus the guy that can just go out there and blow people away, doesn't really have to throw any strikes and hitters are scared of. How does that translate as hitters get older? That guy has a big learning curve ahead of him. The next player we're going to talk about, another guy that was with Team Carolina this past year, a left-hander, somewhat similar boat. I think he's a little bit more on that latter part that I was talking about, where his stuff has been so far advanced for hitters. He's probably had some guys that were just scared to hit off him. Hitters are starting to close the gap a little bit, which is it's a natural progression. He's starting to weed out the guys that just physically can't hit. And now he's taking that next step. Does he develop changeup? How does breaking ball develop? But the fastball's got unique characteristics, and this is 2026 left-hander from Holly Springs High School, Noel Rhodes.
Yeah, he's right down the road from me. It's a low slot left-handed fastball. It rides. It is a hard pitch to hit. He has very good command of it. He's also built like a refrigerator. He is one of the most strongest. He wins every workout. He takes pride in them. And there's not many kids that have legs. There's not many grown-ups. There's not many people in the world that got legs that are as physical as his. He's a fastball splitter guy. Splitter is really good secondary pitch. It's a really low spin. The breaking ball's got a chance to get out. It's more of a roller sometimes than an actual legit type breaking ball. Part of it is from that low slot. It's got to pop up before it spins, which is why the splitter kind of takes over. And as you say, he's just not a guy I want to hit against. He might be 5'7", but he's 5'8", but he's a very scary dude with the way he looks on the mound.
He was an interesting guy at future games. He went there, and I think he had met with some coaches who I think had told him, hey, we want to see our left-handed pitchers in this range when we start trying to commit them. We want to see these numbers. And so I think he went out there in his first inning and said, I'm going to go get me a number. And he did. He was just spraying the ball a little bit. And so when he came back in the second game, we challenged him a little bit of, hey, okay, you got the number. Now you can pitch. Let's go flood the zone. Let's show a changeup in the zone. Let's control the run game if runners do get on, and let's show guys. And that was the more interesting inning for me. Did he touch that number he was trying to go get? No, he was down a little bit in the second inning. But the thing he did is he was missing bats in the zone. And against some of the best hitters in the country, when you're missing bats with strikes, that's a unique characteristic. It's a special characteristic. And it plays to the fact that fastball is different. The radar gun tells you a number, but the hitter gives you a characteristic of what the fastball is actually doing. And that ball has that tendency to jump on him. His ride on it, I don't have the number in front of me. It's a solid ride number. But I think even the characteristic of what that ride is, it's how that ride's happening, how late it's happening. And hitters feel like that fastball is just exploding late on them. They're on time. The swing gets there and the ball's by them. You start pairing that with something that has a chance to go down or something that has a chance just to pull back and fade. And now that two-pitch repertoire has a chance, because the fastball is going to get out, to flip the order a second time and maybe a third time without even developing a third pitch, which he's going to have the ability to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was 20 inches of ride, so it's an intriguing characteristic, and you don't see many low slot lefties, so he's always going to be an outlier pitcher. Always going to be somebody that you've probably never seen, and the ball's going to do something you've probably never seen it do, just because of how he throws. So he's always going to be in an advantage.
As we move forward here, we're going to start talking about guys that may have put their name on the map for the next session of the future games in June, late July of 2025. We'll take 23 players down to Atlanta, form Team North Carolina. I'm sure we're going to play South Carolina. It's kind of the rivalry game that those guys like to see us play. But we played California a couple years ago. We've played Florida, played Georgia, Maryland, Virginia, Alabama. So there's some areas of the country, and getting these guys together and representing their states, their territories, and letting them go at it. The one thing that was unique about this session this year with the preseason All-State, whether it was this one, Greenville, and even in Mooresville, was the amount of talent. We don't have time to talk about all the guys that really put their names on the list, and we're still building that list and going through all the information. But there was a plethora of 2027s. Our job, the class is deep enough. Our job is going to be tough. We're going to cut some guys that are probably going to be in the top 20 cut. We're not going to invite, or we're going to have roster spots filled. And we may miss out on a guy that's in the top 20 in the class because there's 3 other guys in this position that are in the top 15. And that's a little bit different than what we've seen in years past.
Yeah, I think that what people miss is how physical or how much talent you have early. It might help you, and now once you start putting teams together, sometimes it's about who has the most versatility, who can do this. That's you get in those things. If you look at our pro case, there's some guys that didn't go to either and are now on the map. Some people develop and some people have a different program or plan than what we have or, some people just can't make it. Like they might have been good enough, they just can't make it. And so it gives somebody a chance to put their name on a map. And that's kind of, it's kind of how life is sometimes. And some of these guys are going to take full advantage of it.
It's a good point because at our pro case, we had guys that weren't even in consideration for East Coast Pro. We're not on a list. We're not in the tryout. We're not even in the mix. And now the pro scouts had an inkling about them prior because those guys worked so hard in our area. But they put their eyes on. We had 34 plus professional scouts at the event, and they're putting their eyes on them. I'm getting a ton of texts. Hey, these 3 guys, I really appreciate you guys working to get them there. And those aren't guys that we were considering for future games. Those aren't guys they were considering for East Coast Pro. So it can happen quick, and that development stage is constant. Players can get better. And so as we start going through some of these 2027s, we're going to start looking – at guys that have a chance. We're not making any invites right now. We've still got to go through the spring season, see a few more guys, but we're going to start with a physical left-handed hitter, Wesleyan Christian Academy, a physical switch hitter, catcher, shortstop. And again, I'm watching this swing before I share my screen. I'm kind of amazed by the bat speed he's got. But Cole Bowman, your thoughts on Cole as I pull him up and start showing the video off.
Yeah, he passes every eye test, and then he ran, and you realize what kind of special athlete he has a chance to be.
90 Bowman.
And, with that, I think he was sub 3.9 in the 30 for somebody that size. It was very impressive as a catcher. It was
90 Bowman.
So, that's the easiest thing for me. That's going to improve just because most guys pop down and improve with age and, they keep working on it. So now you have a plus runner and a plus catcher, a chance to be, and then you got a switch hitting catcher. Now you're starting to go through check a lot of boxes really quickly, and then he hits the ball 104. And now you're passing eye tests and checking boxes of I need to go see this guy quickly because he might not be on the market very long.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting gameplay. I think the swing really plays well and that environment's controlled. He knows kind of the ball's going to be in the zone. I'm interested to see if he has strike zone discipline from both sides of the plate and if he's able to stay on balls and stay on slider, stay on changeup when he's starting to see off speed pitches. Physically, he should be able to. He's a good athlete, a really good athlete. But that's kind of that next step in the evolution of hitters is, the physical traits are there. And now our job is to go see him do it in games. So he's kind of the first guy. The next guy's a young man that's with the Richmond Braves organization. Our guys in Virginia saw him at the Richmond Braves Scout Day, I think in the fall, raved about him, bumped him into our rankings. And then all of a sudden he shows up at this past weekend, and that's Brady Holmes. Brady is a shortstop out of Person High School, listed at 5'8", 181, but there's some physicality in that 5'8", 181. There's some quickness in that 5'8", 181. Let's see if we can't pull some video on him here real quick and let you kind of dive into what you saw.
Yeah, it's an unorthodox swing, and so he's going to be a guy you're going to have to go watch just because if you see a video, you're kind of like, oh, he kind of changed his heights. And then every ball was hit on the barrel, and you were just like, oh, okay, this is different. And then he was on time, and then you watched him play short, and he had the best arm of the event. And now you're like, oh, okay, this is just a guy that has a hit tool. And the more you do scouting and the more I've worked in the pro organization world, the hit tool is the hardest tool to find. And this guy legitimately might have a plus hit tool. And if you can stay at short, great. If not, you're going to go to third. He could end up being a power hitter with a hit tool at third base. If he wants to stay at second, you're power hitting. The bat's going to play whatever position he wants to play.
Yeah, the bat tool leads the prospect, and I think that's the case anywhere. Because one of the things we can do in player development is we can clean up defensive instinct. We can clean up defensive actions. Watching him a little bit in this video here. He's catching the ball a little bit off the right side of his body. He's already starting to transition his body one way while his hands are still getting outside his body, but he catches the ball. So the most important part of what he's doing, he does fine. It's the nuance of where should the ball be, and how is he going to funnel it? How is it going to be soft? But again, we can pick that up just through teaching techniques. What's harder to teach is a guy that knows where his barrel is and has the quickness and has that little snap at the end. He has that. There's, he's got some physicality at the point of contact here. And, I think he's going to be an intriguing watch as guys get to know him over the next year or so. And again, he'll be a guy that we're watching as we kind of look to see where are we going to be with that future games team. And because we got a short glimpse at the super sophomore games, Kellen Rogers, Corbin Spilliers, who we're going to talk about here in a minute. We had two other middle guys that were in the mix there. Brody was there. And then we've also now adding in guys like Trent Baker from the East event and now Brady Holmes. And how do these guys kind of sift themselves out to see which, are we taking 3? Are we going to take 4 and bump a third baseman? Are we going to take 4 and bump an outfielder? And there's some things that we can do with the roster, get the best players there, but they're going to make it difficult on us.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. With those guys and the talent level, your hit tool is always going to win. And so I think for him, he's going to have a good shot right away as long as you can hit in game. Like, Person's got some guys up there, so we're going to have to get up to Person. So I'm actually looking forward to it. They got a couple of arms that just committed. Yeah. So I'm going to shout out Person. We're going to be making a trip to see you guys, so we're going to see how this works in game play.
We talked about Corbin Spilliers. He was at the super sophomore games. He was a player I like because the energy was good. The motor was good. He was a defender that had a chance to catch the ball. He's also a switch hitter with quickness. I love the left-handed swing. He's on the barrel. There's a little bit of less head movement. The rotation is tight. He's got handsy from the left side. On the right side, I think at times the strength has a chance to be better, but he doesn't have quite the whip he does on the left side. But again, that's just day-to-day reps.
55.
Where he has a chance to be. Your thoughts on Corbin?
Yeah, first off, I'm going to say he's got a great number 55. If anybody knows, I always try to take the 55 jerseys. That was my number. I like them both. I kind of wish you gained a little ground a little bit. I think that will help out with some of the head movement and stuff. I think he kind of gets stuck pushing on both sides. The bat speed on the left is a plus. And I do think the physicality on the right-hand swing's got a chance to play. They're kind of two different swings on the same athlete. And I think as he continues to keep going, once the swings kind of match the athlete, I think that's when he'll kind of figure out what he is. Does he want to kind of go for more bat speed, or does he want to kind of add a little more strength and just try and go more strength-based? He's a good enough athlete to do either. He was 87 across the diamond. He's a really good player with a really high skill set. So, again, he's another guy that's going to have a higher floor just because of the way that, his tools are.
I think that's the important part is where is his floor? I don't know that his ceiling is maybe the same level as some of the guys that we've talked about over the course of the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's still a fairly high ceiling, but the floor is so high. I think he has a chance to jump into a program, help immediately, and then somebody's got to knock him out of a position for 4 years. And the swings and his baseball instincts and what he does are at such a high level. I think the tools notch up because of the instincts, because of the IQ. We saw it a little bit with the super sophomore games, the way he handled the defensive assignments we gave him. We even played him out of position here and there just to see how he'd react. But he was one of those guys that we couldn't fluster. Whatever we threw at him, he did. Whatever we threw at him, he did. And he kind of knew what he was supposed to do. He knew where to go, knew where to line up, knew where to be on tandems and things like that. So, the IQ was pretty high. And again, you start talking about the number of things thrown at these guys at college campuses. In their first fall, you can make your head spin. It's not like playing quarterback, and they have a lot more thrown at them on the football side of things, but it's a lot different than the high school game. It's a lot more nuanced. It's a lot more detailed. The things that we talk about even in workouts and events, and we get these guys in these future games or top prospect games or North Carolina, South Carolina border battle, and we botch a relay and we pull those guys off side and say, hey, here's where you have to be and here's where you have to be. We're looking at them, and you can start to see, it starts to churn a little bit in terms of, how are they handling that process and how are they handling that instruction? And he was a guy that didn't flinch ever when we put all that stuff on him.
Yeah, I like those things. And some of these guys got to understand that just having a high floor is not a bad thing. It usually means you're, going to be able to step in earlier. Sometimes, the high ceiling guys, they have a high ceiling, but they don't make it. Usually the guys with the high floors make it a lot more. And so, when we're talking about floors and ceilings, some of you guys, when we're saying you're oh, you're not a high ceiling guy, that's not a bad thing. It's actually a really compliment to have a high floor. It also means that like a lot of colleges don't take guys sometimes with high ceilings because they don't always reach the ceiling. And by the time they get to that ceiling, it's that projection over production. A lot of high floor guys are a lot of producers.
Well, one of the things that the high floor guys get is they get reps because they're going to be in the lineup earlier. And now, how do I reach my ceiling? I have to be in positions to play. I could be a high ceiling guy, but if the high floor guy is getting 400 bats and I'm getting 20, I'm not getting anywhere close. And this guy is maybe pushing his ceiling higher. Just because we set a ceiling on somebody doesn't mean they can't bust through it and raise the roof. So, that's a part of what we do scouting wise. From our end on prep baseball, we don't have player development. We don't. So the player development is my background in player development, but what they do at Chapel Hill, what they do at Wilmington, what they do at Charlotte, what they do at NC State is different. Different players react in different ways to those places. And so I've seen coaches that do a really, really good job with high ceiling guys, and they're willing to take more risk. Now they're going to have some years here and there where it blows up on them and they just can't do it. They can't function. But if all those guys hit, then that's the team that has a chance to get to Omaha. Those mid majors that get to Omaha, you look at Kent State, you look at Coastal when they went and won the national title and technically a mid major. They had guys that eventually had a chance to play in the big leagues. They had guys that spent a bunch of time in AA and AAA. So talent gets you to Omaha. And so the high end guys have a chance to do it. Those high floor guys have a chance to win you a lot of games. And so very rarely do you have that kind of implosion of a year. You're going to be at 30, 33, 35 wins every year. And if you can hit it right for a couple of weeks or you hit it right on a couple of high ceiling guys, now we go from 33 to 38, 35 to 42, and we're in a position where we may host. A little bit of how coaches are thinking, but everybody's a little different how they react. Are you secure enough in your job that you can really make a run at some guys, knowing if it blows up, I may have to go JUCO heavy, which a lot of guys are doing anyway, just to try to survive, or we can have one or two of those years where things just don't go well and I can just reset and go get more high ceiling guys and see what happens. So, another 2027 that really impressed on the bump, out of Weddington High School, right-handed pitcher Jake Ciampi, a guy that I know you took notice of the spin and just the amount of strikes he was throwing during the event.
Yeah, like we were just talking about a whole lot of high floor guys. Well, this is a high ceiling guy. I probably asked you as soon as he threw the first ball of who the heck is this guy? And I was like, what school is he at? Because I want to go see him. Sorry, bro, you're in Weddington, which is too far for me. But
home games.
It is a home game that way. However, I might be making a trip just because I want to see what this looks like in the game. This is a really clean, easy delivery. And there's some effort at the end, but the arm action works. The breaking ball has a chance to be special.
Yeah.
It is a legit banger, swing and miss, whatever the young kids are calling it nowadays. It is that pitch. He threw the changeup in there, had some fade to it. There's just a lot to like about this. I don't know how many miles are on the arm, but I think there's going to be a lot of miles being used in the next couple of years on it.
Yeah, he's at a program at Weddington that has another arm, and they're in a league where you really probably need 4 or 5 arms, and so he's a unique position as he continues to develop. He's not going to be thrown out there and said, "Hey, it's Tuesday. You go put us in position to win, and then when we're not in position to win, we may think about coming to get you." They're going to be able to use him and put him in really, really good spots, and he's got a team around him that will allow him to throw strikes and get ground balls and continue to develop swing and miss pitch. So I'm excited from that standpoint. The other part is that league's really good. Sun Valley's going to have an arm on the front, that just transferred in back to North Carolina. Marvin Ridge is going to be good. I'm blanking on some of the other teams in the league, but I love that league because they play 3 games a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, or whatever it is. And so they have to develop depth in their pitching staff. And, this is a young man that's, really done a pretty good job of kind of developing, where he's at and continuing to get better. I know, he's really focused in this offseason to making some strides and cleaning up the delivery and cleaning up the arm and letting the stuff play at a little bit higher level. And it has. So the work has paid off. The people he has been with has paid off. And, you like to see things happen like that, for guys that are working a little bit.
Yeah, the benefit to being at good programs is you have good people around you. for him, he could end up being a closer in high school, which is rare, or he might end up being a starter. Like, he has the pitches to be able to go get outs. And going to get outs is the most important thing in sports. No matter what your stuff is, if you get outs, you're going to pitch. And I see him pitching a lot. Like, that was really intriguing. I'm excited to go see how he progresses throughout the year.
We've got one more 2027 we're going to talk about. Make sure I've got the video off on that one. And this was another left-handed hitting catcher, and our catching slots on that, and who we're following. We're going to have a bunch of follows on the 2027 catchers, and probably going to be a year where we definitely take 3, and we may look to take a 4th if he's a utility guy. This is Jace Parker, West Forsyth High School, 2027 catcher, outfielder. And it's a unique situation because he's got a guy in front of him catching that's, 1 year ahead of him, committed to Wake. But, Jace may be able to spell him, but if he's not, he's athletic enough, he's going to be able to do some things in the outfield.
Yeah, he's got a little length in the swing. Power should be able to play a little bit as he continues to mature. Behind the plate, he's like a 2-2. I think eventually the athleticism is going to sync up, and that's going to go down fairly quickly. Again, as
60,
like what I talked,
63.
as we keep going in this, the older you get, especially like pop times and stuff like that, they usually get better. You just clean it up, your body matures, you understand how to do it. But the swing works. Like, it looks like a really good swing, a little toe tap to it, high finish. It's really balanced. So I think he's going to be a good enough athlete to do a lot of things. And, they could end up being catching at the next point. It's never a problem to have 2 good catchers.
Right.
Like, that's never going to be an issue. So I think, left-handed catchers used to be the number 1 commodity in the world. I don't think that's ever going to change. So he's got a chance to be like a big commodity if he can continue to progress.
Left-handed hitter, 91.2 exit velocity, the catching numbers. We'll want to see those tick up. But, again, it was the athleticism, the way he moved, and things of that sort that really kind of caught the eye, especially when you see it in a left-handed hitter. I get excited when you see left-handed hitters because I want that balance. I want to see that, that ability for those guys being able to, bounce around, do different things. One, but that balance in the lineup allows you to kind of set pitchers up. If you got a right-handed slider guy that's on the bump, he's not just going to be able to roll out and throw sliders for 9 straight pitches and get 3 outs. He's going to have to figure out a way to get left-handed hitters out. Same with left-handers. If he's got a changeup or if he's a breaking ball guy, let's flip him and see what happens if he sees right. Can we create some obstacles for him? Is he going to have to use a third pitch earlier than he wants to? And so that's why you get excited when you see left-handed hitters with athleticism. Jace ran a 3.99, a 1.7610, and he's a good mover. The arm, we'll see the arm get better, but the way he moves, and then you can see it here in the swing. That's a tight turn. There's some loft in the swing, but again, it's a young hitter that's just going to kind of get cleaned up as he starts seeing more and more velocity. We'll move forward as we continue to kind of break down guys from the 2025 Preseason All-State Central in Kernersville, and we're going to stay on catchers. Guy right in your backyard, 2026 catcher, third baseman from Garner High School, and Garner's going to be better. You're starting to see, they always have had these athletes. They had a new school kind of pop up, but now you're starting to see the athleticism kind of come back into their lineup, a little bit more depth in their lineup. Nate Mizell. I know you know Nate fairly well.
Yeah, he's always going to be the second best hitter in his family because his sister's going to VT. But I do know him well. He is starting to dramatically improve with the bat. He's starting to get some length in the swing. It's violent. It's vicious. It's 98 off the bat. Has some good distance on it. He's got a chance to really hit. And if he can hit, he's fine because he's a catch and throw guy first. It's 194 to 201. He's very athletic behind the plate. He's a really good blocker. He's a guy you want to throw to, and he's got that. It's always going to be, can he hit, and what level can he hit at? And he's continuing to improve that. I do think that the barrel is going to continue to tick up, and you are correct. Garner has a chance to surprise a lot of people this year. Yeah,
it's for me, it's a mover. The arm plays. There's looseness in the hips. There was explosion out of the crouch. Then it wasn't. You didn't have to put a watch on it. No, he throws at a high level. But even when you're watching the swing, the body moves. And I'll go look and see. I'm trying to remember exactly what he ran. a 4.02 with a 1.79 10, and so that translates as well. I mean, he's a guy that has some quickness. Those guys get better. The quickness in the swing, you're going to figure out where the barrel is with just reps and seeing pitching over and over and over. And so he's a guy that I think has a chance to continue to get better. The other thing is guys that like that can adapt. And so, we're talking about a heavy catching load in that 27 class. If we're asking one of those guys to move and play somewhere else, can they? And, if in that 26 class, he's one of those guys that's going to give coaches options as they're trying to look at their roster going, okay, we want to carry a third catcher. We want to carry a fourth catcher. But that fourth catcher, when I'm only at 35 players on the roster, I've got to be able to do something in terms of creating depth. And so having catchers that can play the infield, catcher that can play the outfield, provide some length in the lineup by playing different positions. Guys that move like Mizell give those coaches those options.
Yeah, he's also a high academic, huge academic guy, so it's going to open more doors for certain schools to be able to at least get in and see him. I think he's pretty close to Ivy League smart, so that's going to give him a whole separate world that not a lot of guys will have.
Another 2026 that we didn't know a whole lot about, and on our roster, the high school wasn't listed. So, Craig, if you're listening to this, give me a shout out. Remind me on where you're playing. But
East Forsyth.
East Forsyth. You're all over. You already asked.
Yes.
Craig McGehee, the third 2026 outfielder. Turned some heads at this event because I don't know that we knew a whole lot about him before we got there.
I didn't know a thing about Craig, to be honest with you. Craig looked about 25. He looks like a grown man. And, God, he could hit a baseball. And it was impressive to watch. It's very physical. The barrel gets to the baseball every time. And I was excited. I ain't gonna lie, I got to meet Craig. That was a guy I wanted to meet. He's an old school guy, had tape on the hands. That guy's hitting. And, man, he didn't disappoint.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that he moved differently. It's a smaller body in terms of height, but it's a thick build. It's strong, and then there's quickness on top of it. He ran 3.91, 1.74. It's intriguing. It's very intriguing. I'd like to see that swing play against pitching because, again, there's a little bit of effort there, the way he's turning the barrel. But if the hand-eye coordination we saw in BP translates into games, he's able to track breaking ball. He's a guy that's got a chance to do some things at a high level. Another player that we saw, and again, didn't know a ton about was Ja'Cory. I'm going to stop sharing Craig. Was Ja'Cory Covington, and trying to learn a little bit more about Mr. Covington. He was a guy that did some special things in terms of the athleticism, 5'7", 172, and again, Garner High School. We talked about Garner having some guys. This is one of those guys too. And when I pull the video, you're going to see that there's some quickness in there.
Yeah, another guy I kind of knew from before. He kind of comes into the facility some. Elite runner. And, he gets the Knicks. He might be a track guy. He can play baseball. He could really hit. And it was a noticeable batting practice. A lot of line drives. He's the best runner at the event. He's also 93 out of the outfield. He's an explosive athlete. If you want to watch, he's got a highlight reel of him windmill dunking at 5'7". It is thoroughly impressive to watch this guy. He's that level athlete, and that's what intrigues you about him being a hitter. You don't get that many level athletes that have his bat to ball skills.
There's quickness. And again, we talk about, what's a defining characteristic? What is it? Something that guys can really separate themselves on. We can teach base. We can teach, keeping the head stable. We can teach a lot of things. It is extremely difficult to teach quickness, and he's got it. There's some aggression with that quickness too. Polish and how raw is he? There's time. He's still young, and there's time to kind of get him to where he needs to be in terms of that polish. But what I had heard and what I was expecting and what I saw were different, because I'd heard athlete, I'd heard track guy. And then the guy that showed up is a baseball player that can run track. He's a baseball player, like you said, he can windmill dunk or whatever it was. It's not just that he's just this athlete and can really move, and we're sticking baseball pants on him. We'll see what he can do. He has a feel for the game. And he had a feel for what was going on that night and what the expectations were from us in terms of what we're wanting to see from players. And I thought he handled the night really well too.
Yeah, no, you can't teach what he can do. I know who he's working with. I know who he's training with. He's got the right people in his corner right now. I'm excited to see the next step because, we talk about size mattering. When you're a center fielder that can run like he can, it doesn't matter like how tall you are. Like you can be 5'7" and play center field because he also has an absolute cannon. It's 93, 94. Like he has tools that height doesn't need right now.
This is not a fair comp to him because he's not this guy yet. But the last explosive, really high-level explosive athlete we saw come through the state that people were trying to figure out, where does he fit? Is he going to be a USA track star, and he may still be, or is he going to play baseball? Is Michael Gupton. And Gupton ended up going to NC State. I think he ends up getting 27 at-bats his first year, but State's going to the World Series because they've got older guys in front of him. And there were some holes in the swing. All freshmen have it. There were some issues on the base pass in terms of how to handle the speed because he could outrun the baseball in high school. He can't do that in college. He's not going to be able to do that in pro ball to an extent. If anybody's going to outrun it, he can, but there's some things that he couldn't do in college that he could do in high school. And so there's a learning curve there, but State had older guys that didn't have that learning curve. So, you're looking at the prospect, who's going to be better in 3 years, 4 years, got a chance to be Michael Gupton. Who's better right now? It may not be the guy with tremendous upside. Gupton decides to go to a junior college, and now, okay, here, Michael, here's 500 at-bats. Here's 1,000 at-bats. Here's 1,500 at-bats over the course of a couple of years. Now we get to see how does that play out, and I think, Jacory's going to be in a similar situation. It's not necessarily where he is now. It's how many quality at-bats versus quality arms can we get him over the course of the next 2, 3, 5, 6 years. And then we can make a decision on where is that athleticism. We talk about this all the time with the old draft and follow rules. You could take guys that had one tool. You could take supreme athletes that couldn't find the barrel and just say, hey, buddy, here's 4,000 at-bats. When you get done with those 4,000 at-bats, we'll sit down and evaluate, have you gotten better? And if you have, you'll stick. And if you haven't, we'll cut ties. But you see, those guys, and you watch them in A-ball, and you're going, how in this world is this guy a professional baseball player? And then 6 years later, they're in contention to be in a Hall of Fame because they have an it tool. They have something they do that's different, and that quickness he showed on Saturday is different than a lot of really good players that we saw.
Yeah, I think that as the game continues to progress, the draft, we just talk about like the draft follows, like you and I talked about it earlier, like even guys being able to spin a baseball. The way that college baseball is moving, guys that can develop, it's not going to always be the Division I level anymore. Like we need 50 to 60 innings, whether it's Division II, junior college, NAIA, D3, like being able to have game reps against better talent is how you get better. And the stigma of I only want to go Division I is going out the door as the amount of talented players that are not going Division I anymore. And I do think that the more the reps happen, high school reps, you're playing 24 games. On college, you play 75 with 100 when you include the scrimmages. Like right. We're at two different ballparks. Like, at Division II, Division III, you probably are getting 150 at bats before you ever got to your season. And that's the part where people, I think, the game is changing and we have to adjust, as evaluators, as scouts, is the guy that we used to send to a Division I because he was going to develop. Well, he's going to sit. And so developing is not going to happen right now, and then he's going to be unhappy. Where now we're having to send that guy to a Division II, to a high-end junior college. Hey, you got to go get 40 innings. I don't care where it is. Get 40 innings and let's see what happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we're talking about how those guys are transitioning into college. One of the things that we see at these events for us is we do get an early glimpse of some of the freshmen. They haven't been on the field yet. They haven't even gone through a tryout system yet, for their high school program. But we are starting to get, names, the guy that has a chance to take off, guy that has a chance to, be that next guy in the program, whether it's this year or the next 3 years. And we have some of those guys filtered to these, high profile events for us. They're invite only. We do go through and kind of mark and check guys, make sure they kind of fit in with the event. We'll take some words from coaches every now and then. obviously if we haven't seen a 2028, we're going to reach out. Hey, who's seen him? What's going on? But we had some 2028s really stand out. Your overall thought process, not just from the Central, but from the East and the West as well, with some of the freshman talent that we saw, in terms of guys that have a chance to contribute this year and years to come. Just that overall umbrella. What'd you think?
I thought it was, a physicality is getting better. Like from when I was a high school coach, I never had a freshman on varsity. And towards my last year coaching, towards the end of the year, Andrew Keller, kid that ended up at Campbell, which was Pro-K's guy. And these guys don't look like freshmen I used to have. Obviously, it depends on the school you get to. Obviously, some of the higher end schools, even good freshmen play on JV. Some of the schools that might not win a lot, freshmen get more reps early. But we had a guy this weekend, 2,700 spin as a freshman. Like that's like something you would never even really hear about. And this guy was 80-83 with 2,700 spin. If that guy's getting reps on JV just because of the roster, that's just not an easy guy to hit, and that's, this is one of the better breaking balls of the event, and it's hopefully coming on the next pitch. If my video skills are good and not the fastball, thank you. Here it comes. Like, this is a phenomenal pitch. Like, and this to be on a 2028, like it has a legitimate chance to get outs at any level. The fastball right now, a little bit lower, velocity, but he's a 28. But if you're on varsity at 80-83, it kind of depends where you are as what 80-83 is. But this breaking ball is, this is one of the better ones we've seen in a while.
Yeah, this is Jackson Silvers. He's a 2028 right-handed pitcher playing at Moorhead High School. Moorhead had a trio or a quartet of players at the event. All four of them performed every one of them performed at a high level. We're pointing out Silvers as we're kind of identifying some of the 2028s here, but it's a special metric. You start seeing guys at this age, with the ability to spin the baseball like he did, 81, 83 to 2,500 plus on the spin rate on the fastball, and it's not really a cut. Sometimes you see cut fastballs spin a little bit better, and the 2,700 on the breaking ball. There's confidence in that pitch, and I think it's important too when you start looking at these guys and guys that are that young and they have an outlier that they have a chance to turn to. They can go out and he could probably spin it 80% of the time if he can land it and he would get a bunch of outs. But when he has the fastball, it's going to be able to do it too. He doesn't have to just turn to the breaking ball. He's going to have spots in the game where he can go 3, 4, 5, 6 hitters and just lean on the fastball at 83, 85 because of the spin rate, trust his defense, create a little bit of soft contact. And then the breaking ball's there when he has to go get it. And, that creates a unique situation for his development as well. And we've already seen, we've had pitchers come through that program and through that area with their developmental system. They've done a really good job of developing guys that are similar to him.
Yeah, it's all about reps. I don't care if you're a JV guy or varsity guy. If you can get 30 or 40 innings right now, just be a 28 and go get those innings. Like, no matter what it is, go play baseball. Go help yourself and continue to develop. The 2028s, you guys are rising freshmen. Like, your ceilings are all making themselves as you go. And confidence is key, and part of getting confidence is being successful. So if you have a chance to go be successful on JV, go be successful on JV. Like, nobody cares what you did your freshman year. We're all looking to see what you're going to do as you're progressing. If your freshman year is your best year, we're probably in trouble anyway, as you want to continue to improve. And that's kind of where I feel on it. As I said, like, I didn't have a lot of freshmen. One in my 5 years of high school coaching at a pretty big school. So don't take it as a negative. Take it as you get reps and improve.
Well, I think one of the things that's happened too is more high schools have evolved. You got even the 4As have gotten smaller. The graduating class has gotten smaller. There's been a turn to we have to play more younger guys just because of the talent pool and number of players that we're drawing from and keeping in our system. For that 4 years has gotten smaller, and so. There is a little bit more of an emphasis on being able to play some young guys and being able to create depth with those young guys too. And then when they're given the opportunity, if they play well, they stick. So it's been, it was a long month for us. We did 2 weeks of preseason IDs and Rising Stars events. We saw 4 of those. We did 2 weeks of preseason All-States, and in the back end of that, the pro case. By far the best preseason we've had in terms of evaluating and dealing with high-end talent. I think part of that is the getting players to the event. We had, I think, 4 events completely sell out. Part of it is there's so much depth in the 25 class and the 27 class. We've talked for the last 2 years about how the 25 class has kind of separated itself from several classes in North Carolina. And it's kind of, will it kind of catch? I know you have the one class out there. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but that's
22.
Yeah.
Clifford and Isaac and those guys.
Are they going to catch that class? And, maybe not, but, the 27 class is next up. And then you look at the 26 class and go, man, if it wasn't for the 25 class, the 26 class would be thought of it in a very similar fashion. But the 25 class just kind of is so good and so deep at the top half. That 26 class, you're going, it's okay. But when you start looking at how those guys are comparing nationally, they're ticked up compared to how some past North Carolina classes have been. So we're blessed that we have a ton of talent we're going to be watching this spring and covering and watching games and trying to figure out who needs to be with us at our bigger events, things of that sort. So I'm really looking forward to getting on the road and watching these guys play live.
Yeah, I can't wait. We tell all you guys this. If you guys got games, if you got important matchups, high school coaches, if there's a game that's going to be big. Obviously, we don't have a ton of people, but we have enough people we can try and get you guys some, if we can find the right game, guys that blow up, send us the stuff. Like, we want to go watch good baseball. When I retired from coaching, I want to just go watch the game. So I love watching good baseball. So send us games that matter. Like, send us stuff. Let us go be able to come watch you guys. If we're just sitting over here and you're like, oh, we played somebody good a couple weeks ago, let us know early. Like, give us a chance to make the schedule. Give us a chance that we can put people in place. Some of you guys that are far away, like I always go to Wilmington and Ashley. If we got some guys up on the coast that are good and you've got good matchups, send it to us. So that way, if we got a couple weeks, we can plan one out. Don't send it to us on Thursday and you guys are playing on Friday. Like, that's hard for us to make happen. But if there's good stuff coming up, or, hey, like, this is our rival, listen, we go to Beargrass. Like, I'm going to Beargrass. Like, I'll come see you guys. Just send me something where I know ahead of time so I can make a schedule.
And we'll do hotels. Our staff we'll put them on the road. Part of what we do with the subscriptions. So guys that are getting subscriptions and they're reading the stuff, they're seeing rankings, they're getting behind the details on recruiting essentials and things of that sort. When that revenue comes in for us, that's the revenue we scout with. So we're trying to send guys out. We're trying to take care of our guys on the road so nobody's put in a position where they have a chance to get hurt. Driving at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. We don't do that. But, just let us know so we can plan. Spring break, your coaches, a lot of the coaches in the state do a great job of getting us tournament schedules. And, I send my family out. They're gone. And that because I know I'm going to be gone for 10 days, and try to see as many different games as I can. And, Zach's in the same boat. Patrick will be in the same boat, and that's kind of where we separate ourselves from a lot of other people that are in this type of industry where we're running, combine type events and we're talking about players, we're talking about, we're trying to combine all that information we get with real true game action, and being able to sit down and bear down on guys. Tournament stuff's good when you're trying to, cast a huge net. And I'm, because if I go watch games at Lake Point, I'm covering 8 fields at once. I'm trying to get as many of your at-bats as I can, but I'm also at the same time, I'm bearing down on another 30 at-bats going on at the same time. If I'm at one high school game, I can really get a feel for how is the guy pitching the lineup? How is that guy pitching you? And then dissecting what's your plan? Well, how are you reacting? Is there a plan? Or are you just up there freewheeling it and your talent takes over? Those things kind of start to matter. We start trying to separate guys out and really trying to piece together who fits where, college lineups, rankings, or whatever it is that we're doing. So it's a good point you bring up, and we're excited about doing that and being out there. And it's just kind of the next evolution of what's going to happen. So a little bit about what's up next for us. The high school preseason previews. We're going to start putting those together here in the next week to 10 days and start getting those out. So high school coaches that have been sending in their preseason information, we'll have that. We'll start putting that stuff out, highlighting programs, highlighting players, highlighting schedules. And then before the season starts, right around that March 1 date, we are going to be working to update the rankings based on what we saw this preseason. So it's not going to be a huge overhaul in terms of going through everybody on the list, but we're going to take the guys that we've seen, update grades, renew grades, whatever we got to do with those, and start filtering them back through the lineup and through the rankings where they need to be to make sure we're as accurate with that as we can be. getting college coaches ready to be on the road as their March 1 date comes back across. So, Zach, any closing thoughts as we kind of get through the preseason and start getting ready for the spring?
I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Best food. I'm going to go ahead and I might do a review this year.
Okay.
Coach Zach 2455 is the Twitter handle. If you got some kind of food, that's going to be a draw for me. So I'm going to go ahead and call out anybody that's got the best food on the East. Coach Zach 2455. You let me know. I'm coming to a game and I'm doing a food review.
Yeah, I'm down some LBs, so I'm going to try to avoid that Twitter handle as they're sending that in because I may end up jumping in the car with him if it sounds really good, and I don't need that. I need to be good and get through the spring and kind of keep the ball rolling. But yeah, I'm going to live vicariously through you, so you have to give me a play-by-play on or do vlogs.
We might do
one bite. Everybody knows the rule. Take the bite.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of throw this out this year. It's something I wanted to do last year because I like eating. My pounds are not down, and they probably won't be. So it's okay. So we are going to thoroughly enjoy it. So as I said, I'm going to clip this. I'm going to cut it. I'm sending it out to North Carolina. I'm going to probably put it in the East only because no offense to the West, that's a far drive for me just to eat. But East only, let's go to town. Best food, I'm coming. We'll make it a Friday night special, and we'll put a vlog on your cook, and we'll do your game.
It sounds great to me. I'm all for it. So we appreciate you guys listening. If you're on YouTube, remember to subscribe, like, do all the things you're supposed to do. If you're on X, hit the like button, hit the share button. Help us out. Get this information to as many high school baseball players in the state of North Carolina as we can, and because we're going to be out watching you guys. We want you guys to have this information, right, wrong, or indifferent. We're pushing it out there and letting you guys kind of let it live its life online. So for Zach Borowski, I'm Brandon Hall. We're looking forward to seeing you guys at the field. Thanks.